Oh yeah, look at that fine lighting. All right, so we are deep in the throes of the off season here. No Browns, no Buckeyes, no fish. Got some fish coming up in February. Now the fish shows in April are getting a little more dicey. At the time, like the Knicks ain't making the playoffs. It's all right. Now we don't know. But what I've been doing in the meantime is I've been listening to all these podcasts by this guy Payne Lindsay. Did thing on the Atlanta Monster or something called Up and Vanished. And then the most recent one I finished is Dead and Gone, which was kind of cool. I thought maybe a person or two on this channel may be interested. And Spud, dude. I kind of kept waiting for Spud to show up. You guys know Spud here on the channel. Big Dead fan. And this was kind of back in his time. There was, and I guess, you know, maybe a lot of the first episode, it seemed like they were going to talk about just overall the people, like maybe a lot of Dead fans have come up missing or murdered, car wrecks, overdoses. There's just been like all these deaths associated with people on the Grateful Dead tour, which is not that crazy considering they toured for so long, so many people seen them, you know, just a bunch of a very at-risk group, just a bunch of young kind of people doing drugs, running away from their families and all this and that, not unlike Spud. And anyways, so he kind of zeroes in on this young couple. Well, not a couple, these two young people, Greg and Mary. They were 18 and 22 years old, and this guy Ralph International Thomas ends up going to prison for murdering them. Like, they're all hanging out at Rainbow Village, was just a place where a bunch of Dead fans hung out, stayed on buses and whatnot. And Greg and Mary get killed one night, and there's a bunch of circumstantial evidence that maybe this Ralph guy did it, but ultimately he was like the one black guy in the group. There was he had a history of, you know, some felonies in his past. He had served in Vietnam. He had argued with Greg and Mary over Vietnam, but like not a heated argument, just kind of a little bit of back and forth. So that was basically the only evidence against him. They say he owned a gun. They never found, you know, they did all the stuff they would do to check him for evidence. There's no blood on him, no gunshot residue, no like witnesses that saw him do it. But anyways, he goes to prison for it years later as they're trying to free him, appeals and all of this. Had a horrible public defender that really didn't even try to defend him, it seems like. Hey, whoa, motherfucker! Jesus Christ, dude. Little bit of snow on the ground. People all of a sudden, like, guy just totally was coming over in my lane. So, this guy Ralph goes to prison for it. He eventually dies in prison before they could like free him and exonerate him and all this. And then the other two characters in this is this guy Bo and this guy Weston. You know, as old dude Payne is working on the podcast, he gets a call, and this guy's like, hey, I got a story I want to tell you. You might be interested. And it sort of points a little bit maybe towards this guy Bo instead of Ralph International. They kept calling him International. Maybe International did not kill these people. And that's kind of where the story goes. You meet this character Weston. There's this great part with Weston. I don't know, maybe episode, I don't want to spoil the whole thing just in case somebody does listen to it. But there is this great part with this character Weston where Payne's not like, he's definitely not a cop. He's a podcaster / journalist, I guess. He's doing this kind of an investigative type thing. So about the second or third time he talks to Weston, it kind of turns into an interrogation. You know, it was friendly enough, like, hey, I appreciate you helping me out, but I feel like you've been dishonest here, and this isn't my opinion. I'm going to show you some court documents of things that people have said about you, like on the record. And the best part of it was the whole time in the background the Dead was playing. It like started out with some drums in space, or maybe some other one in there playing in the band. He even like caught the guy starts talking about how he's just this like peace-loving guy, would never hurt a flea. The Dead still playing in the background, and then Payne confronts him with a domestic violence arrest he had at one point in Wisconsin. He's like, yeah, I know, you just kind of told me that you would never harm a flea. You know, you're the type of guy that would apologize when you bumped into somebody dancing. But there was an incident in Wisconsin, and dude was just like, oh yeah, you knew about that, huh? Payne's like, well, you know, we dug into everybody. It is public record. And So I don't know, that was just one of the better moments. The Grateful Dead's playing. This guy's telling you how he's a peace-loving hippie, wouldn't harm a flea, apologizing to people if he bumped into him dancing. Meanwhile, Payne's like, dude, I know you beat the shit out of your girlfriend. You like ripped her hair out and hit her with a shower pole, a shower curtain rod. And then there's this German guy who was kind of around Rainbow Village. I guess Rainbow Village was near a marina, and this guy owned a boat and just lived on his boat. But he wasn't really a part of the Dead scene. In fact, he wasn't really down with the Dead scene. He was like, a little shady business there. I didn't like those guys. So Weston's kind of trying to point the finger at him a little bit. Klaus, I believe, was his name. So finally they talk to Klaus, and he's like 80 years old now, still has the German accent, spent most of his life living on a boat, so he was a real character. He was fun. I think the greatest quote from him was, if you go poking around in shit, it's eventually going to start to stink. A very good point by old Klaus. And then, and Payne, dude, he's one of these guys, one of these investigative journalists that, man, he's got some balls. This is like 2 podcasts in a row where, like, all roads lead to this guy. The last one, it was this guy, Paul. This one, it's this guy named Bo. And eventually, he just kind of like slightly ambushes them, just finds out where they are, where he might be able to find them, and just shows up, starts asking them questions. When he rolls up on Bo, and Bo's like, who are you? What do you want? He's like, do you know Greg and Mary? He's like, who the hell's Greg and Mary? He's like, were you at Rainbow Village in 1985? And the dude immediately was like, get the fuck off my property. And then that ended with Payne running to his car because he thought he might get killed. So I don't know, it wasn't really about the Grateful Dead, and then it seemed like it was going to be a podcast about all the just like mysterious disappearances and deaths of fans over the years on Dead Tour. And it did talk, there was this guy Jake, he was more of the, he was kind of like the co-host, but if they needed to get in and really talk about the Dead, if something about that whole culture needed to be explained, this guy Jake would come on and talk about it. He's done a few other music-related podcasts. He was a little bit too much of a Deadhead for me, though. He got real poetic. Like, every time he'd talk about the Dead, he would start telling poetry. He just couldn't talk about Jerry without talking about Jerry in the form of a poem or something. Got a little annoying. Cool story in there about how the Grateful Dead got their name and what it's all about. I'd never heard that before. So maybe even if you're just like a casual Deadhead. And spoiler alert, we got all the way through 10 episodes and no Spud. Spud was never mentioned, man. This was more of a West Coast gig, though. I feel like Spud maybe stayed more on this side of the country. Midwest, East Coast, kind of the Southeast. So I don't know, that pretty much, if you're into this kind of thing, Up and Vanished was pretty good, done by the same dude, and then he did, I think Up and Vanished had like 3 seasons. Oh, he also did The Atlanta Monster. That was the first thing I heard by this guy, Payne Lindsay. Fancies himself a filmmaker, and then he turned into a podcaster. He's like, well, I never have got my documentaries off the ground, but it turns out my podcasts are pretty hot. People are digging them. I don't know about this Dead and Gone, though. I don't know if it had a lot of listeners. It came out about 1.5 years ago. It's kind of old. This is the first I'd never even heard of it till about a week ago. So I don't know. If you like that, you'll probably like his other stuff better. Up and Vanished is his. That's probably the one. This guy, he's kind of known for, I guess. I don't know. Atlanta Monster was pretty good. But there was at least some, that's the other, it is a bit of an unsolved mysteries at times. Like, not every case he does. And they're kind of in real time, too. So that's kind of neat. It's more, it comes from like a journalist thing rather than just like I like true crime, but every now and then if it's just like retelling of a story, and it's like, all right, I don't know. I want somebody to get busted. I wanted Bo to go down by the end of this. And Weston. What role did Weston play in this? And then there's this guy, Robert. Robert was a key central figure. All right, fellas and lads. Whoa, it got awful dark, man. All right, guys. Boom. You'll have to trust me. I just hit you with a boom. I know you couldn't see it, but believe me, it was there. Got a little snow on the ground. I don't know about you guys, but we got like no snow this year. We got like 2 inches. I'm pretty excited. Oh, there you go. There's a little light. Now maybe you can almost see a silhouette of the boom. Boom. Thanks.